Well, look who's back. I honestly thought that I'd bored you all to tears last week when we were discussing the 12-fold pattern. But apparently, you've got a gluttonous appetite for heavy lifting and my particular brand of rambling. Welcome. Grab a chair, adjust your lumbar support, and pour yourself a glass of something that doesn't have a nutritional label on it, and let's get settled in. You're listening to Firelight Dialogues, where we take the world's most complicated ideas and beat them into submission until they make sense to a regular person, or at least until the fire goes out. And I'm your host, Pat Kansoer. Today, we're talking about death. Now, don't go reaching for the off button. I'm not talking about the kind of death that involves probate lawyers and your kids fighting over who gets the good silver. We're talking about le Petit Mort, the little death. It's a French term. And leave it to the French to take the most exhilarating physical experience that a human can have and name it after a funeral. It's that brief window right after the fireworks where your brain essentially hits that Alt F4 button. Your ego evaporates, your worries vanish. And for about 3 glorious seconds, you forget. You forget that you have a mortgage, a receding hairline, or a social media profile to maintain. Today, we're going to try and find out why your meat suit thinks a climax is a blackout, why philosophers think your personality is actually a prison, and why you're never closer to God than when you've completely lost your marbles. Let's start with the plumbing. Your brain is essentially a high-end computer running a very buggy operating system called being a person. It's exhausting. You have to remember, you have to remember to breathe, pay taxes, and pretend to care about your neighbor's vacation photos. When you hit that peak, your brain dumps a chemical cocktail: oxytocin, dopamine, prolactin. It is so potent, so strong, it temporarily uninstalls your soul. Biologically, your blood pressure drops, your heart rate slows, and you enter a state of postcoital tristesse. Nature is smart, folks. It realizes we are so incredibly annoying to ourselves and to others that the only way to reward us for keeping the species going is to turn us off for a minute. It's a biological factory reset, a biological control alt delete. If we didn't have the little death, our partner would tell us, the ceiling needs painting. And we'd probably just spend the whole time wondering if we left the garage door open. Now, let's get to the why. There was this French philosopher, Georges Bataille, a man who clearly spent way too much time in dark rooms thinking about uncomfortable things. You spend your whole life building this identity. I'm a Republican. I'm a vegan. I'm a CrossFit enthusiast. I'm a jelly donut. Congratulations, you've built a prison. You're trapped inside that identity 24/7, 365. La Petit Mort is the wrecking ball. For a few seconds, the fortress walls crumble. You aren't Pat or Steve or Jane or the VP of marketing. You're just a pulse. Bataille thought we crave this because being a distinct, separate human being is actually quite lonely. We want to dissolve. We want to stop being me and start being everything. It's the only time that HOA board in your head finally falls asleep and you can actually have a party. Now, this is where things get really weird. If you read the journals of the great mystics, people like Saint Teresa of Avila, their descriptions of meeting God sound suspiciously like a really good date. They call it ecstasis, which literally means to stand outside yourself. Spiritual enlightenment is just a little death that lasts longer. The goal is to extinguish the ego so the divine can move in. Saints spent decades sitting in freezing caves, eating nothing but locusts and regret, just to reach that same state of emptiness that you found on a Tuesday night because you got lucky in the back seat of a 2002 Ford Fairlane. It's the ultimate spiritual shortcut. The Little Death is a biological trailer for the spiritual movie we're all supposedly heading toward. It's the universe reminding you that there is a profound peace available, but the price of admission is you. You have to die a little to live a lot. We live in a world of personal brands. Everyone is a liar. You're lying on your resume. You're lying on your Instagram. You're probably lying to yourself about how much you really love kale. But you can't lie during Le Petit Mort. It's the most moral you'll ever be because you're physically incapable at that point of being a scammer. It's an act of total, terrifying vulnerability. To experience this with someone else is to say, I trust you enough to let my guard down so completely that I'm willing to vanish for a second. In an age of control, letting go of control is a radical act of honesty. It's the only time you're not on. If we could all just stay in that state for 5 minutes or longer, we'd probably have world peace, mostly because we'd be too tired to start a war. All right, look, I've given you a bunch of minutes of high octane philosophy for the low, low price of your attention. Do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button. It's the little red thing. You can't miss it unless you're currently experiencing a little death of your own. Share the link with someone who takes themselves way too seriously. Drop a comment below and tell me I'm wrong. Or email me at info@patsanswers.com. That's INFO at patsanswers.com if you've got a question that isn't boring. And if you really want to support the work we're doing here, go buy the Firelight Dialogues short story anthology paperbacks. They're full of stories about people hitting these exact same walls: spirituality, ego, and the occasional awkward encounter. They're available now on Amazon.com, and frankly, your coffee table looks lonely without them. Buy the books. It's cheaper than therapy and a lot more entertaining. That's it for tonight. My fire is down to embers and my joints are starting to stiffen up, which is nature's way of telling me to shut up and go to bed. Next time you feel that post-climax little death and that slight sense of melancholy creeps in, don't reach for your smartphone. to check your work emails. That's a sin against the universe. Stay dead for a minute. Enjoy the silence. The world, with all its noise and its idiots and its taxes, will still be there when your ego reboots, unfortunately. Now, get out of here. I got things to do, and none of them involve you.